In 1977, two very strange sounds were recorded in the ocean. Their frequency was very low, while the amplitude was very high. They were recorded by the American Atmospheric Administration radar, but the surprising thing is that these same sounds were also recorded in other radars 5,000 kilometers away. After calculations, the location of these sounds was estimated. It was found that they were generated in an extremely remote area of the South Pacific Ocean in the ocean. At that time, these sounds were named as Bloop, and research was started on them. That after all, what were these scary sounds of? Obviously, these sounds should have been of something very big, but there was nothing like that in this part of the ocean. For many years, it was understood that under this part of the ocean, there's a very large Duke Reacher. But after 2012, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration changed its stance and said that the sounds recorded in 1977 were generated due to the movement of glacial movement. But what is the truth? No one has been able to know about it yet. But the point at which these sounds were recorded, a very unique work is being done there today. At this point of the South Pacific Ocean, there is a part of the sea on which there is no part of the Earth on all four sides for thousands of miles. It is also called Point Nemo, along with the oceanic pole. The nearest piece of land from here is about 2,688 kilometers away, and this nearest piece is of no use because it is the South Pole, i.e. Antarctica. The nearest landmass from Point Nemo is the coastal part of Chile, which is 3,334 kilometers, while New Zealand is on the other side, which is 4,700 kilometers away. This is why Point Nemo is considered the most desolate and dangerous part of the world. So desolate that the closest humans here are not on the ground, but are astronauts sitting at the International Space Station in the amazing Era, which passes more than 400 kilometers above Point Nemo once or twice a day. Despite being cut off from the world, Point Nemo is not without a purpose. Under this part of the sea, humans have those inventions for which money used to flow like a river. Yes, Point Nemo is the graveyard of broken satellites, spacecrafts, and pieces of rockets. But the question is, where were the satellites dropped before Point Nemo was discovered? Why is it necessary to drop them? And most importantly, how are satellites brought to Point Nemo? Welcome back to Informative World Watch videos. Viewers, Point Nemo is spread over an area of 220 million square kilometers in the South Pacific Ocean. This is such a large area that even Russia, the largest country in the world, can fit in it. And despite that, there will be enough space left for 5 countries like Egypt to fit in. But in these 220 million square kilometers, there is no population of humans. Humans can't even survive under the water here. Researchers believe that the conditions here are very challenging, making it difficult for sea life to survive. Point Nemo is located in a very remote and deep area of the South Pacific Ocean, where the temperature of the water is cold and there are almost no nutrients. Point Nemo is located in a place where nutrients are scarce due to ocean currents. This water circulates round and round in this part of the ocean. That is, the water from other parts of the Pacific Ocean cannot flow properly here, which is why there is a shortage of nutrients here. And where nutrients are scarce, plankton and other microscopic organisms are also scarce, which are the cause of food chain. The depth of the ocean in this area is about 3,700 meters, or 12,100 feet. It is impossible for sunlight to reach this depth. That is why photosynthesis cannot be done here. That is, if there is any sea life, it can be deep-sea organisms such as squids, bioluminescent fish, and other deep-sea creatures that can survive in extreme conditions. In 1992, for the first time, a Canadian engineer discovered Point Nemo by performing various mathematical calculations. This place is so remote that whoever discovered this point has never been here himself. After 9 years, for the first time in 2001, it was used by the Russian Space Agency. Because Point Nemo is a part of the ocean that comes into international waters, that is, no country owns it. That is why different space agencies in the world do not have to ask permission from anyone to drop their space objects here. On March 23, 2001, 15 years had passed since the launch of the Russian space station Mir, and now it was not capable of staying on the mission for a long time. That's when the Russian Space Agency deorbited it, i.e. took it out of Earth's orbit and dropped it in Point Nemo. After Mir, other space agencies also found this place quite suitable, and now they also use it for spacecraft dumping. In the last 23 years, this graveyard has been filling up, and today there are more than 260 spacecrafts under Point Nemo. And soon, the International Space Station will also be buried on this Point Nemo. Because according to NASA, the life of the ISS is up to 2030. Before that, it will be decommissioned. Satellites or spacecrafts are made in a very precise way. Even after spending billions of dollars, they are not made to stay forever. Just as the expiry date of various products is written while making, in the same way, the objects orbiting in space also have an expiry date, and after that expiry date, it is very important to crash them voluntarily. If this is not done, the spacecraft will be out of control and can fall out of orbit at any time and land uncontrollably. In 1978, the Cosmos 954, which was a Soviet satellite, had a problem, and its contact with the base station broke. Now that satellite was out of control and remained in its orbit for a while, but after several months, it left the orbit and began to move towards the ground. What he was afraid of happened. It entered the Earth uncontrollably, but its biggest danger was not being out of control, but it had a nuclear reactor in it, which gave power to this satellite. This satellite burned to ashes in the sky, but radioactive materials spread throughout North Canada. After that, an operation was started, whose purpose was only to find and clean this radioactive material. This was the biggest operation of its kind, which was named Operation Morning Light. Fortunately, no one was harmed in this, but after this incident, the world saw a glimpse of the loss of running satellites through nuclear. In addition, in 1997, Lottie Williams, who belonged to Oklahoma, was walking in the park when suddenly something fell on her shoulder. It turned out to be a piece of the Delta II rocket, which had scattered as it entered the atmosphere miles away. Lottie Williams was not injured in this incident, but this incident opened everyone's eyes. Such incidents should not occur in the future, which is why space objects are dropped on the deserted parts of the ocean. Until Point Nemo was discovered, this work was done in the Pacific Ocean, or in remote areas of the Earth. Whenever a satellite or spacecraft has to crash, it is first removed from orbit with the help of thrusters attached to it. Even after being removed from orbit, it roams around the Earth for the next few months, but gradually it also gets closer to the ground. Engineers calculate very carefully when, where, at what time, and in what position to activate the thrusters. Before entering the Earth's atmosphere, the thrusters are activated again, which directs it towards Point Nemo. Remember that because there is no air in space, there is no pressure, so there is no friction there. Satellites in their orbit do not leave their orbit for the next few months without power. Their speed is very fast, normally 15,000 kilometers per hour, and when they enter the atmosphere at this speed, their temperature rises to 3,000 degrees Celsius due to friction, and they take the shape of a fireball. This temperature melts the metal in them and turns it into ash. And in most cases, the thruster flies as a steam before it falls. But sometimes some ash falls on the ground, which can cause serious damage if it falls on the population. This is why they are targeted at 22 crore square kilometers of Point Nemo to protect humans from its damage. Speaking of the name, Nemo is a Latin word that means no one, because neither humans nor sea creatures live here. And this location is also such that ships do not pass through here. Vessels avoid such locations where it is difficult to get help in the event of a problem. If you ever get stuck in Point Nemo, it will take 2 weeks to get help here by ship, and the helicopters that travel up to 3,000 kilometers are only a few in the world, in which Skorsky S-92, Augusta Westland AW-101, and Lockheed Martin VH-71 are included. And they also have no guarantee that they can cover a distance of 3,000 kilometers without refueling. And even if they do, there will be no fuel left to return. Reaching Point Nemo and doing underwater research, there is a dream of the scientific community. It is possible that research will be done here in the near future, and the secrets of the voices to come in 1977 can be unmasked. I hope you will like and share this video of informative World Watch. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next great video.